Welcome to Season 4 of the Vulnerable Power Show, a deep dive into the heart and soul of leadership, where we spotlight visionary leaders, spiritual entrepreneurs, innovative executives, and New Earth pioneers who have all done the inner work and soul searching to transform and step into their greater calling and mission, here to make a big impact for collective good. We will share and explore vulnerable insights and potent wisdom in our heart-centered dialogues, so you too can be equipped for the future paradigm unfolding today. Be empowered with the skills, tools, and practices so you too can do the transformative work and be the ascending leader you came here to be. Together, let's bring more heart and soul back to leadership around the world. Greetings, everybody, and welcome back. Welcome back to Season 4 of the Vulnerable Power Show, where we take a deep dive and bring the soul and heart back to leadership. And today, it's the metaphor for me is like one of those rock stars that I've always wanted to see that pulls me on stage. I have a fellow Ascension scientist, at least that's what I call him. It's going to be a real treat to dive into some soul healing, ghosts of our past, how that stuff can affect us. So without further ado, I wanted to introduce Wolfgang, tools of ascension, tools for ascension. I mean, brother, to say that it's a treat is an understatement. Thank you for being here.
Well, my ego just fell in love with you.
So, I mean, one of the ways I usually start is by telling the audience how I met the person that is the guest today. Here, it's really surreal. When I started this show 3-4 years ago, it really felt like an extension of me. And here we are 4 seasons in, and I met Wolfgang's work about a year ago through Manya Welch, who was on the show, and then also through a healer she sent me through. And the work that I discovered him through was about fear and terror, and akin to the topic that we felt inspired to talk about today, these ghosts and traumas we can carry at a soul level. And it was surreal. It was simple. The work that he's going to bring through today, you'll see as an audience. And I'm excited to play. I'm excited to really see what unfolds and dive right in. And as Wolfgang likes to say, smile like an idiot together.
Yeah.
So where do you want to start, brother? I usually will ask, like, you want to go from the beginning of your journey and kind of pepper in how you got to the masterful work you're doing, or what do you feel?
No, why don't you just read my bio that I sent you?
Okay. Yeah, I can pull that up and we can do it. The lawyer in me loves formality, so anytime we do it that way. So Wolfgang has a very interesting background, because I don't know if he knows this, because we've only had a brief chat to come on the show. He actually was born in Germany and fell into studying philosophy, it seems like, years in India, studying yoga, mysticism. And then his skill set early on was actually in the printing industry, where I actually was one of my first jobs as a kid, which when I saw this in your bio, working as a photographer, cameraman, video production, and then finding your way. I mean, I can go on and on. The firewalking, sweat lodges, Sanskrit teachings, advanced rebirthing, hands-on healing, breathwork techniques, Kundalini yoga. Personally, I call you an ascension scientist or a soul engineer because of the nature of what you do, brother. And, you've been on YouTube longer than I've been at this. And I really do feel that this is like Superman and Batman coming together in a way, is what it feels like, 2 powerhouses. So this is the man, the myth, the legend, Wolfgang.
Well, I'm not a legend, yet, maybe. How can I serve you?
Yeah, so let's start with something that I feel for the audience that are practitioners like myself. How did you stumble upon the work that you're doing? I mean, let's start there. Let's start at the proverbial beginning of the journey for you in terms of being a practitioner and becoming a practitioner.
Well, I studied yoga in India, bhakti yoga as such. And then after 6 years, and I lived very monastically. I slept on a straw mat, $2 straw mat for 6 years on a marble floor, right?
Wow.
You don't sleep longer than 6 hours unless you're sick.
By design.
Yeah, but it's healthy,
Mm.
and so cold showers only, I mean, completely austere. And so then I lived in America in a spiritual commune, and I was studying there also Bhakti yoga, and I was
Mm.
doing videography, etc. And then somebody came and did a past life regression on me, and it worked. So I got shown right away, some of the most embarrassing things
Mm.
about people, how it was myself. One of them was I was a Spartan.
Mm.
Um, yeah, but I was a merchant, which was kind of looked down upon, and I was like a glutton, like Lucullus, just nightingale tail. I mean, these are guys that drink blood and cow's milk,
And you were
and
seeing this. So during this regression, you were seeing it,
I,
experiencing it
yeah,
again.
I was experiencing it. I could let go of enough, under the guidance of the person. And, my images weren't very clear. It was not clear, but, I got it. And, the shame of it, and 350 pounds, I mean, normally nowadays, this is, nothing unusual, but in
Mm.
those times, that was extreme. So, I realized why I don't like to be fat. I
Mm.
always, kept in shape my whole life. That
Mm.
came from that lifetime. So it gave me a lot of compassion, and understanding. Plus, as a tool for cleansing and realizing yourself, I saw it as supreme. And I just adapted those techniques. And later on, I refined them, with breath work and, other things. I can do chi transfer. I'm an empath, so I know where other people's chakras are at and can give corrections, get them tweaked like a race car, and get them souped up. And I'm not using the normal methods of past life regression, like deep relaxation. No, so I'm using more yogic things. And so people, most of the time in the first session, they can talk to their high self and inner child, and do extraordinary things. Yeah, so I found that this is like one of the best methods, for spiritual advancement.
Elaborate on
And
that. What do you mean that this is the best method for spiritual? Because again, for the audience's sake, we're going to have some newbies in the audience, I sense, and some people. Yeah.
of course. And I mean, I'm not saying this as a daily practice.
Right. These are like, I
No,
guess you could say
and
excavations, I would call them, deeper dives.
yeah, these are like vision quests. You do those, sometimes, and to give guidance, and to connect, to your source. Find out who you really are. This is
Mm.
part of becoming a woman or a man, I would say, unless you know this, you're just pretty much dumbling around. So, yeah, spiritual advancement. Well, how is this best for spiritual advancement? Well, for instance, in these regressions, I basically talk to the divine aspect of that person, and the person is right there, witnessing it. This is not trans-channeling where they're like, you get taken over and then they don't remember
They're
anything. No.
conscious.
They're conscious. They're hearing it or seeing it. They're seeing images, that depends on how they operate. Some are visual, some are cognitive, some are audio, and
Mm.
feeling.
It depends. Yeah.
That depends, what their strengths and weaknesses are. But I get to talk to a lot of high selves,
Hmm.
that are enlightened, call it Christ conscious. Some are polarized, male and female, some are, on the transcendental level, some are very cosmic. And, sometimes you talk to demigods like Anunnaki or Nagas or other powerful ETs. And so they all have their perspective and their thing to say. So, I mean, I studied Eastern scripture, and of course, and now Christianity. And, plus I studied Western philosophy. So,
Hmm.
I kind
Bringing
of,
it together
and so,
syncretically. Yeah.
well, I mean, I can ask qualified questions, plus I have a, German education in physical sciences, so, I can ask qualified questions. Plus, in my Hindu teachings, I was trained how to communicate with those beings. You don't want to offend, neither a demon nor, a god or a demigod or a ET.
Well, I love this because we're already getting into this season. I've sensed it was going to get into more of this advanced work, shall I say, for a lack of a better description. And what I like to call the hidden dimensions, as we call it, beyond the veil, beyond the normal senses and the material senses, because you're already dropping really amazing insights about these otherworldly beings. And when we get into this line of work, because for me, what really stood out in terms of both finding your work and how I found it on my journey in terms of healing and transformation and ascension, what have you, is how the heavy shit that we can't necessarily understand, that's paranormal, shall we say, that holds us back, and how the mind gets in the way. So I love that you're already saying things that for some people in the audience may be new. For some people, they'll say, oh, I've experienced something like that, maybe not to that extent. So let's dive into one question that already pops in. What do you do with the disbelief? Like, because I've come to learn the disbelief placebo effect, it blocks it.
First of all, to me come on mostly clients, that react to my guided meditations. If they don't react, they're not going to come to me.
Okay.
Plus, I put intent out that only people that I can help will come to me.
Okay.
I don't want to deal with somebody that is too, traumatized or not able, doesn't have the basics together, where I cannot help.
So you start with the intention of, as a practitioner, what you're actually broadcasting out into the field and what you want to manifest and attract. I love how you're starting there with that discernment.
Yeah. Plus, I don't want to do like the chewing the chew. Everybody talks about grounding and vegetarianism and this and that. Everybody's copying everybody. I don't want to waste my time with this. I'm looking for the stuff, the pay dirt, that nobody has explored, that's outside of tradition, and where you really get results. I got my life, I listen to so many lectures, and it's just like, spiritual kung fu or verbal kung fu. I studied Western philosophy, so these are systems of mental chess, so to say. No, I'm very practical oriented. So first of all, so people that are not suited don't come to me.
Okay.
Maybe only if they're referred. Then second, when I introduce them, when I do the grounding with them, and when I do the chakra opening, to the heavens and the heart opening, they feel that. They feel this.
I would agree.
There are very few people that do not feel this. And, and those that don't feel this, they're very traumatized as such. They have so much pain in their body, in their being, that they cannot even perceive the subtle stuff. They will perceive their pain first and go back. So with something like that, I would have to do rebirthing breath or just cleanse them with chi or stuff like this.
Okay.
Then those they can be straightened out too. Once they dump enough trauma, then they start feeling again. But most of the time, I'm able to open their heart chakra, and I can project love into their heart. And I teach them how to project love into my heart. I open their crown chakra and they can feel it. Most of them, 80% feel it. And it blows their mind. But it's a show that, hey, it's this is possible. And then I have them doing it me too. I coach them and they can do it. And they'll learn in an hour what they wouldn't have learned in a weekend, intense seminar. Yeah, and so, show them how to run love in different techniques, how to run this love onto others. And then, you also connect to source, so you have access to supreme love. I consider that the VIP pass, and they feel this, and they're like getting art, this is like, it blows their mind.
I will
Yeah.
concur, and I love what you're already unpacking, because so one thing that I came to see early in, as a practitioner, is that healing can't be done to you. You have to be a participant, and it has to come from within. So I love how you're saying they're conscious, they're invoking their higher self, you're having them be their own healer, which I feel like that's why, as you alluded to, some of it is intellectual masturbation. I call it that. You called it something else more politely. And it really, to me, yes, because when I did your meditations, I loved the fact that there's no bells and whistles. You're taking people into altered states of consciousness and into these deeper states of awareness beyond the proverbial veil. And I would concur, because I was already experiencing a lot of advanced work, and I was like, wait, what the heck? How did he do this so quickly? You know, you literally brought the field in so quickly. So that's why I started by saying the simplicity that you're bringing back, the organic nature of how you're bringing this through, is remarkable in my opinion.
Well, the thing is, what you have to consider is not just, I'm doing the text here, I'm speaking in a dramatic voice. No, I'm going with my consciousness there, what I'm talking about. I'm not completely there. I mean, because I got to talk and stay online, I'm not zoning out completely. That's just me on kind of low. Talking all the time. I
So
don't
you're
know what you
letting your
think,
higher
but
consciousness do most of the work, the super conscious, the higher self, the soul, so to
yeah,
speak.
you getting, the contact high, from my consciousness, from my voice, of course, I check in the music, I mix this with specific purpose in mind, and it's designed, there are bells in there, by the way, this ping, there is a bell in there, which is very purifying, so, but, it's, once a hypnotist told a friend of mine, we started, hypnotizing each other, that you can only, as a hypnotist, bring somebody, where you already have been, where your consciousness has been.
Say that one more time. That you can only
As,
go.
as a hypnotist, you can only bring somebody to the realm where you yourself has been. So if you haven't been in the Olymp, on that level of Anunnaki, you can't bring anybody there. Even if they were Anunnaki, you can't bring them there.
So that's maybe what they mean by healer, heal thyself, right? Because you have to be able to actually access that dimensionality within, from what I'm hearing you say, to then be able to take another as a guide or a vessel, let's say, to that dimensionality.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, say you're a mountain guy, and you're out of shape. It's not a good idea.
It's a good analogy. Yeah. Yeah, an out of shape guy can't go up the mountain.
That's why I'm laughing. I had
Yeah.
never heard that one.
A good example. I love that, what you brought through. Yeah, because you can't climb Mount Everest if you're out of shape and your cardio sucks. So yeah, it's a very
but
quick and
imagine
easy
you're a
analogy
professional
for it.
Sherpa that is out of shape. It's not
I
a
love
good
that you brought
idea.
that word through, Sherpa. I mean, in a lot of ways, that's what you're doing, right? I mean, let me rephrase that. My understanding of a shaman or a mystic is like a vessel, a Sherpa, right? I mean, how do you view that?
No. I see myself as a contractor.
Okay, talk to me about that.
Well, I have a client, and so he wants to have relief or whatever, and I make this happen. I mean, I call in on his high self, find out what's going on, see who he offended or who his ancestors offended, and get that straightened out. And I mean, this can be big, like warfare, and this can be small, like murder or cheating. That depends. And there are curses, so there are divine beings that gladly help out. So I have my crew, that is reliable, and so Archangel Michael, he does certain things, and Mother Mary is good for kids and love and women. And so I have those beings that I have a relationship with. And,
you have them on retainer? You have your subcontractors on retainer?
I think, let me put it like this. They're glad that there is somebody that calls on them and gives them permission to help out.
Ooh, let's unpack that, because I had a teacher say something similar. So I love the contractor analogy you're bringing through. A teacher of mine once said that free will is what you have to exercise because these divine energies, these celestial beings, let's call them, can't come until you ask them. And so is that what you mean by they're eager to help because somebody's calling upon them? Is that my paraphrase resonate in that way?
Well, they're staying in line to help out.
What do you mean
You
by
know?
that? Let's
mean,
flesh
the
that out some more.
situation
Yeah.
on this planet is rather dire. I mean, I hope you can see this. The way things are going.
Unpack that because you're reading my flow of where I was gonna go next. So this is beautiful. What do you mean? I mean, yeah, I know it's chaotic and it's proverbial, hell on earth, and there's a lot of trauma.
It's basically a frequency war as such.
A frequency war. I like
of light against dark. And fear, against love. This is a time where the light and cosmic forces, higher vibration is coming in, electron cloud, you could say. And and the dark forces don't like that, and they try, to keep things contaminated as much as they can, through war, through electronics, chemical contamination, on all kinds of levels and technologies that probably most people have barely any idea, what exists. But that's the big picture, so those beings, those divine beings, they can look through space and time, but they do not interfere, unless they are, asked, but when they're asked, they gladly help. You are like in the army, there's an officer that looks where the bombs hit or where the, artillery hits, and they call in artillery, and they're very important, adjust here, we need some over here, and so that's us, us light workers, calling in the strikes, there is something going on, yeah, big violation of free will, yeah, arrest all those beings that are doing this, we give permission, bring them to the courts of divine justice, for the highest good, and then the victims, bring them to places where they can be, healed and liberated. I call this Ascension temples, and it works, and you can feel the energy leaving, and then, generally the trauma has to be cleared, this thought forms. If there was a battle or murder, you generally have dark portals there, creepy energy that has to be cleared, things like that.
So what do you mean? What do you understand the word ascension to mean? Right? Tools for ascension, I'm using ascension scientist. What do you understand that to mean in terms of this frequency war, let's say?
Yeah, okay. So the analogy of a hot air balloon is really good.
Okay.
I mean, your chi is like hot air, your loving chi, and it will tend to rise up, your kundalini going up. The more your energy goes up into the head and above, the more sane you become.
Okay.
And more enlightened.
Okay.
Because your antenna is open to the higher realms. You're not just a dumb materialist that's looking at matter, who gets the fattest Mercedes.
Okay.
Not interested in that anymore. So now the baggage, that's the problem. That is like your emotional baggage, from this lifetime, anything, self-esteem, trauma, and all these, they hold you down, and then past life baggage, spells, curses, depression. I mean, life is rough, and then most of this stuff comes from ghost, so not all the consciousness, when it's too traumatized, doesn't have that vibration, hot air balloon again, and they get stuck in the lower astral. See, the higher vibration finer is higher, refined air, and so they get stuck in the lower astral. Guilt, anger, fear, magic, curses, spells.
Denser vibrations is what you mean.
Yeah, but these are the reasons why people stay back, why ghosts stay back. If they get killed, they want revenge, and they take revenge, from this astral plane. When they're attached to a woman, or a man, they follow them around, many times, like stalkers, and then they don't like the new lover and all this, they mess up, they get jealous, or they want to get even if they got dumped. So, you got the human drama going on, but people don't even know. And it's like
that these energies are interplaying with our realm of, let's call the physical reality. So I like this
yes,
because as an engineer, it sounds like, I mean, everything you've said in the last few moments, I love the hot air analogy. It sounds like, ghosts, demons, the frequencies of these things, the dark, let's call them the darker negative or lower vibrational. It sounds like I would call it energy spillage is how it comes into my mind almost, right? Because
yeah, it
energy
has
is
to,
neither created nor destroyed. And it's almost like I like contractor. So it's a lot of it is cleaning up this stuff. It seems like this, let's say the sewage that's spilled in the foundation of the
yeah.
building that is me, for instance. Is that a good analogy to kind of go off of?
Yes, yes. Actually, yeah, I call the grounding cords are sewage cords. This is the function. You have to be grounded to the earth mother, you know, to dump your dark emotions out. I mean, in all
Slow down on
times,
that. Slow down on that,
you
brother,
know,
because so what do you mean by that?
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So, most of when you look at humanity, you know, most of the time they did a lot of walking, right? And
Mm-hmm.
barefoot or sandals. So they got a foot massage all the time. And their chi body was connected, to the earth. Knipe, walking in the morning dew, you
Mm-hmm.
get that chi up, and there are people that are into grounding, and you should have the same voltage as the earth, but I think there's a 4-volt difference,
Yeah, that sounds about right.
which, messes up your physical body, just like plastic clothing too, So, you have to counteract this as a yogi, so you gotta, as a yogi, you are like, this is not good enough, I mean, yeah, if you walk every day in nature, it might be good, if you walk in the garden, yeah, grounding comes naturally, but normally, no, I sit for 8 hours on the computer, so I gotta
Mm,
like physically ground, do
mm,
breathing, and it works, and plus as a yogi, you overcharge, you supercharge, so your brain doesn't, work on 15%. No, no,
mm.
no, 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 no.
You're
You know,
activating these extrasensory, let's say, pathways and
yeah,
potentialities and
yeah, yeah,
capacities.
yeah. You cheer it up, electromagnetic force, and you balance left and right brain. You use a lot of breath, so you have also lots of oxygen, but you use chi. This is the subtle life force, electromagnetic life force. Organ, free, vril, chi, ki. Mhm.
Prana for the Vedic, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Didn't even
interesting because
mention
you
this.
said something that I feel like for me was shocking when I learned it, and I learned it through the shamanic school, which is you said that the grounding cords, our connections to the earth plane, is actually how we're supposed to release the heavy energy. And that to me was shocking because you hear all of this heal the earth, heal the earth. So it seemed contradictory. Why would I give my garbage to the earth? And then I learned, well, the
Mhm.
earth actually eats heavy energy. Is that your
Well,
understanding of how it works, or how do you relate to that in terms
well,
of
she,
then the
she
sewage
can
pipes?
she can transmute your energy, and it's not like you're using Earth as the painting of Dorian Gray. They just commit dark deeds, and just keep dumping on the Earth.
Like dumping.
Bad karma transfer, it's called. So,
I take all my
uh,
garbage, Earth.
yeah, she's not stupid. She can just cut you off. Look at a lot of magicians. They don't look happy and healthy.
Yeah, the
So
selffulness, the
you gotta
lopsidedness. Yeah,
see by the
unnatural.
result.
Yeah, well, so you're saying that then it seems like what you're saying is that there's an intention behind it, and it's more of a recycling intentionality.
Well, first of all, from a practical point of view, you're more valuable to Mother Earth when you're emotionally balanced instead of being completely off and stuck up.
Mm.
Yeah, so I mean, she loves you unconditionally, more than any mother, and she's smart, so she knows you through all your incarnations. So you have a huge resource, of love from the Earth Mother. You got to smile and breathe. I'm demonstrating this to you right now. Smile so you can feel it. So I'm pulling it up from her and then I'm projecting it towards you. That's like 20 seconds, well, cold.
Mm.
You know?
And the
And
key,
then
as you taught me, is to smile, because that's also something simple that you were talking about versus the frown. It's remarkable. It's opening that gateway and the pathways and allowing, as you said, to pull it up and out and fuel and then use.
Yeah, I definitely always look at, simplicity and, effectiveness. So what I found out in my studies, that when you smile, you tune into your higher mind, your divine mind. Your mind becomes like a butterfly, going for the beauty, nectar, joy, happiness, love, friendly. And the more you frown, the more you tune into your lower mind. Pessimism, anger, jealousy, everything pisses you off, nothing is good enough. Your mind becomes like a fly, going for the garbage. In the same reality, it's the same reality. So that's your choice, simplest choice, upper mind, lower mind. Even if you don't feel like it. And if you're frowning and I yell at you, it's going to hurt you. And because it's lower vibration, it gets right in there. When you smile and laugh, and I yell at you, it's not going to get at you. Maybe at the end I give a demonstration on this. For the viewers to see, they can see for themselves.
We can play with it.
Yeah.
So I love this so far. So we have a hot air balloon analogy for what you would say is a description or an analogy of ascension, right? So we want to kind of fill up and go higher, raise our vibration. And that requires us to get rid of these, let's say, densities, these baggages, these old things, which, as you alluded to astutely, past life, other dimensions, as well as this time and space continuum.
Sure.
We're touching on the garbage, how our grounding, our root chakra, the feet, the soul chakras connecting to the earth grids, how that operates, the smiling. I love that. And then something that you said that I forgot to highlight at the very beginning, which is the impact. Because what good is all of this inner work and all of this fancy, which I saw in the spiritual community. And maybe that's why I gravitated towards, liking what you did and reaching out for you to come on the show, because I say this all the time in my own practice. I don't care if any of this is real. If you believe it's real and it impacts you and you get that result, and you said, I believe efficacy.
Yeah, so no.
Okay, let's slow it down. Let's unpack that. Okay.
Those people, they feel this, I mean, they feel the love. I mean, they feel the love, and many cry out of love. So when I have them in the first session, mostly run love on the inner child, many of them cry, 50 to 30% cry, out of love, not out of pain, out of love. So, oh, no. And when their crown chakra gets opened, they feel definitely lighter. I mean, they all feel lighter after the session. There may be the healing crisis afterwards. It's like fasting, integrating. You go high like anything, and then everything starts detoxing.
You have to crash.
As above, so below. And then, you go maybe through a little healing crisis, But otherwise, you feel lighter, better, and your heart opens. I mean, you have access to love. And, and after a couple of past life regressions, I mean, yeah, you are not this body, you're an eternal being, and that's a lot of pressure off you. I mean, if you really believe you're the one-shot deal here, and after death, that's it, you got a huge bucket list, you better use your time wisely, But if you see yourself surrounded by eternity, then you relax a little bit more,
I love that. So so the impact is visceral, is how I would interpret what you're saying. Like they can feel it, and I agree. And that's what you mean by the impact and the visceralness of it, the embodiment of it. It's cellular. I mean, they're really letting go of this at a base quantum level, and I get that.
Yeah, I mean, just the previous session today, the lady went into tetany. And there was a dark energy in her, and we cleared that, and it was normal again, So, yeah, this happens all the time. this kind of stuff, that you clear.
Unpack the detoxing, because I love that you're touching all the points that I usually have to explain to clients, because I saw this in psychology, I believe, with drugs or any operant stimulus that we take in. I think they call it the seagull curve. You go, and you said as is up, so is below. You have the high of it, and then you go dip down as far as engineering goes before the wave starts to balance out. So, like, how do you explain that to people? Look, this is going to you're going to detox. Shit's going to come out, garbage in, garbage out, as I say. Like, how do you said healing crisis. Let's play with that a bit. How do you relate to that detox integration process after the release?
Well, it's very simple. So when your vibration is suddenly very high, then the physical body has to follow. And so it's becoming more refined. So it's dumping the darker stuff. I mean, it's your subtle body, is the template for your physical body.
Mm.
If you have emotional, stuff around your sexuality stuck, the chances are that those areas start looking pretty nasty. All kinds of fat growing there, toxic looking, not healthy looking. The purer the emotional body is, and the etheric body is, you can both see this in the skin, in the aura too, but in everything, it shows there. If somebody, looks like, he just last night, drank a bottle of vodka, and he's telling you he's a great yogi, no, probably not, And if somebody, is like telling you how to be happy in life, and he looks like he just went through a divorce, yeah, dude, heal yourself first, before chewing, and trying to be,
I saw a funny cartoon that said, healing workshop canceled. Healer is sick.
Yeah, right.
It was energy healing workshop canceled. Energy healer is sick. So yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, because like you're speaking the lingo. So for the audience to kind of put it into this phraseology of, so you're saying that the energetic body, once what the work you're doing, it clears that. So then the cellular body, or biophysical, or meat suit, then releases. So that's what you meant by this detoxification healing crisis,
Yeah,
so to speak.
so, you got to drink more water, and you make sure you have roughage in your diet, because you start, the toxins go into the lymph system goes into the colon, so you want to have a lot of straw there, to dilute it. Otherwise, you auto-intoxicate, and you get a headache, you get skin rashes and stuff like that. Your skin starts getting itchy, and you feel tired from the toxins. So you want to flush those toxins out.
How do you, during that, let's say, healing crisis or post-session integration period, what do you say as far as meat, or let's call it the death frequency? Do you recommend the clients eat meat during that detox period? I know it depends, generally speaking.
Well, it's best not to do drastic changes in your diet, first of all.
Okay.
I mean, if you just, eat like, 50% of your calories are from meat, and you're suddenly going vegetarian, that shift change is going to create a lot of problems in your factory.
Interesting. So don't shift it too
for
much.
a lot of, yeah, I mean, see it as a factory, you got to have a nice flow. And if you change too much at a time, you're gonna have flow problems.
Well, it may actually strain the biology, is actually, now that you say that, is, I would say, is what comes to mind.
It's like a shift, your body works in shifts, day shift, night shift.
Cycles.
You have teams, and so on, liver and so on, there you have your different teams. So, and so a plus also, then you have to think about, maybe you realized that in a past lifetime, your lover or your mother, did this and that to you.
Okay.
And then you also find out that, in another lifetime you did this and this to her, and then you like go through your memories in this lifetime. Oh God, this is where this is coming from. And this is why, this was that ghost, that made her do this, and now I understand. So there's a lot of, introspection, reflection happening, depending, of course, what you discover. You know, maybe you find out, you know, you were, you know, a nasty imperator, you know, and like a, you know, yeah, like a leader, you know, and 10,000 people died because of your ego. You know, which explains probably a lot of bad luck in that life, you know. But you're just coming to grips with this, you know. Oh God, you know, you're responsible for killing at least 10,000 people. You know, they had babies and this and that. You know, that is something to digest.
I love that, because you do in your work go to the root. And so it sounds like you're touching on the root patterns, the root energy sources. So you said the word that I was going to ask you, because it came up in our, hey, you want to come on the show chat, when you said, what is a leader? And this show is obviously geared towards leadership transformation, healing, and ascension in that regard. What are your thoughts on that? I know you shared some preliminarily before the show, so to speak. What do you see in terms of the collective ascension and the shifts underway and leadership? Like, what is a
Well,
leader
first
to
of
you?
all, you know,
Yeah.
you should question yourself, first of all, why do you want to be a leader? You know, are you an egomaniac? You know, maybe you're better supporting others. You know, maybe you're a Cancer, you know, and you're really good at supporting, you know. And I mean, look in the chart, you know, there's your Leo, you know, in which house and in which sign, you know, that will give you, you know, a reflection.
So
I
start
mean,
with the energy makeup, or let's say your cosmology, your inner
yeah,
cosmology first. Okay,
look
keep
where your
going.
Leo is, you know.
Okay.
My Leo is in Mercury, you know. I mean, yeah, you know, so I like to be top over here, top dog over here, you know, cutting edge in thinking, you know, think outside the box, you know. Don't follow the trodden path. No, you find a lot more on the other side where nobody ever looked, you know, where nobody ever cleaned up, you know. So that's my, you know, biggest bang for the buck. You know, how can you maximize things? I don't know. I cannot going astray here. What was your question
No,
again?
you're not going astray, because it sounds like, because I heard it through the first call we had when you said that. You said, why would you want to be a leader? And it echoes that, I think it was Jesus that said it, heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? Leadership comes with a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
touched on the analogy you used. What if you were a leader in another life? Because on the show, many people in the 3 seasons have heard my leadership journey, and I was that. And so it's fascinating to me, our perspectives. Yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah. Talk to me,
so
Goose.
yeah. So I mean, so I'm doing past life regressions, you know, and it's not like, you know, I do one past life regression per session. No. I'm doing like 20, 30, sometimes more past life regression in one
Potent
session.
dosages. Interesting.
Yeah, you know, group or just, you know, individuals, but I'm going through a lot of past lives with people. You know,
You
of
do
course,
big
it's like
construction jobs. Wolfgang doesn't mess around, audience. He only does big construction
no, I'm
projects.
trying to be efficient, you know,
I know, I'm
and you know,
teasing you. Keep going. I love you. Keep
and then
going.
you have tons of past life that got raped, you know, and are stuck to this, you know. So yeah, you don't have to want to go one on one on one, you know. It's just too much, you know, all together, and then process the ones that are left. That, you know, have to have an individual talk. So God, I got sidetracked
No,
again.
no. So you were saying you do a lot of the past life regression, because we were going back to this concept of leadership. So you started with
Yeah.
why
Okay,
do you want to
so
be a leader? And then we were revisiting, okay, what
yeah.
does it mean to be a leader
Okay, so
beyond
I
that?
was establishing, you know,
Yeah.
my fund of knowledge about this. You
Yeah.
know, so I go through most of that trauma is. And I give you an example now. So I had this Asian lady, and you know, highly intelligent and spiritual. And so, you know, I had a session with her, and then later on over Skype, she told me that she also knows in a past lifetime she was a Chinese queen. Yeah, and I'm like, okay. So next thought popping into my mind was, oh yeah, they make a lot of enemies.
Yeah.
You know, whether you know they're
I think
sooner
the
or later,
Chinese said the nail that sticks out the most gets hammered first, which is what I'm
yeah,
thinking of as you're
whatever
saying
she
it.
did to other
Yeah.
concubines or you know, to other people she didn't like or servants, you know, you don't want to know. So right, so you know, and so I felt guided, and I called those in on her behalf. You know, I called all those enemy ghosts in, and there were about 300. You know, and I just it didn't
So
take
this
me
is
long.
300 souls. When you say ghosts, this is a soul
Not
that's
souls,
passed.
ghost.
Ghost.
You know,
We'll
soul
unpack
is
that
way
next.
above that. You know,
We'll
it's a
unpack that
person.
next.
It's the
Okay.
personality of that incarnation.
Okay. Okay.
You know, the personality, it hasn't come into a higher awareness, you know, where it's, oh, you know, I'm also this and this and this, you know.
Okay.
So
So it's like
it's
stuck
like,
in a way.
yeah, they're stuck, you know.
Okay.
They're like humans without a body that can't eat.
Is that what Dante, do you think that's what Dante meant with the inferno and limbo? Would you say that's the limbo, that a ghost is stuck in that limbo bardo state, so to speak?
It
Sorry, I
could
know
be
we're heading in leadership. I'll go back to
roughly
it. Yeah.
roughly compared, you know. Consider like that, you know. Let's say if you get strangulated, you know, so that's a very, you know, you get stuck in that loop many times. Anger, fear, you know, that survival thing, you know, this is
Okay.
stuck there. Mhm. Like once, you know, in Germany, you know, I mean, I'm 70 years old, so you know, there was this, I was a boy and we were waiting in a lawyer's waiting room, and there was this guy that got stuck in a collapsing building, you know, for 2 days, you know, in the war, you know,
Wow.
and he sued for support. Yeah?
Wow.
Every 5 minutes, he told the same story again, and he apologized. He said, you know, I'm sorry, you know, this is all what's going on in his head. He was on a loop.
So the trauma gets that soul, it sounds like, stuck quantum wise, looping that death
Yeah.
energy in
I
different
mean,
forms.
not everybody loops, you know,
It depends, right? It depends on the
but
manner
a
in which
lot
the
of them
death,
loop, you know.
the density, the trauma, it's all these factors and
Yeah.
variables energetically and quantum wise, let's say. Yeah.
Depends, yeah, it depends on what happened to you. You know, did you die as a warrior? Was it quick or not? You know, did you think it was an unfair fight? Do you want to get even? Are you looking for your loved ones that were
So
left
those all
behind?
stay in the personality body, it sounds like, from what you're describing, brother. It sounds
Oh,
like so
oh,
then, because you said it with the strangulation example, and I know we're going to go back to the Chinese queen and the leadership trail of thought. So it sounds like, yeah, if I died by strangulation, then that loop of that, not only the death, all of those energies of vindictiveness and sorrow will keep looping in my emotional, mental, and cellular bodies.
yes, and there's a bleed over. Plus, those beings, you know, let's say if you in a past lifetime, you know, were a slaver that was really bad to his people, you know, you got cursed, and you're probably having, you know, a lot of them as ghosts, and they're following you around and they're screwing up whatever they can.
So this is why I was fascinated
The,
by this. So let's finish
yeah,
the Chinese lady and then we'll get
let's go
back to
to the
ghosts.
Chinese
Yeah,
lady.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. Leadership, and then we'll get to ghosts. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So this was about leadership. You know?
Mm.
And so, you know, I cleared the 300 ghosts, and then let her know, hey, and just so you know, at 2 o'clock, you know, I cleared 300 ghosts of you.
Mm.
And she said, well, I was in a taxi when that happened, and I could feel it right away. You know, she
Mm.
became a Tibetan nun later on. So, yeah, I mean, I said she was high level.
Wow.
And she said, as soon as this happened, she could feel it right away. And the subtle hostile attitude of the taxi driver turned into friendliness.
So it affected the morphogenic field around her, as we know,
Well,
entanglement.
no, they made the driver mad at her. You know, they affected the, you know,
Well,
driver.
once you
You know,
cleared it up, that
yeah,
dissipated because that's
and
hanging
he was
around her
normal.
field.
Yeah, well, they were manipulating the people. Then she said, you know, she went into the
Wow.
conference room to the conference. And suddenly, she said, instead of fighting me all the time, everybody referred to me in a queenly manner. You know, as if she is like, so what do you think about this? You know, before it's like, you know, this is fighting for the fighting's sake. You know? And so the whole attitude in the whole conference room has changed, because the 300 ghosts were not manipulating her environment, you know, to be hostile to her. They will get even with her, you know, through
Fascinating.
this. You know? So that's the idea of that.
So it's really, I mean, I keep hearing it from you. Yeah, it's the non-physical, or let's say these beings from the subtle dimensions, and the impact it has very real. Because yeah, most up until I met you and we had to talk to, and you said ghosts, and that's why I still, we're going to unpack it live as far as the audience is concerned. I still am eager to get into that, which we'll get into in a few moments. Yeah, because you hear about entities if you're an energy worker, right? If you hear about otherworldly beings and alien species and elementals. And then you said ghosts are the biggest problem, which we'll get to. So back to leadership real quick. So So how do you feel? So once the person feels like, okay, why do I want to be a leader? The inception, the source of where that's coming from, exploration. And then it sounds like from the example you're drawing, heavy is the head that wears the crown. Be careful, because that comes with responsibilities.
Not
Because
just
it's,
that.
yeah, talk
Not
to me.
just that.
Yeah.
All right. So what happens when you're successful?
Well,
Lots of jealousy.
a lot of
Lots of
things, a
jealousy
lot
and
of
envy.
things. You get really, really powerful. Let's say you amass things, and then yes, you get the nail that sticks out gets hammered first. People will argue.
People just are envious, backstabbing, gossip,
Human nature.
jealousy, and this is a back burden, and sending energy that goes to your back, and then and then we go into the woo-woo realm, curses and black magic. I mean, thought forms is one thing, just being pissed, that has an effect. But
That's
then
like the
if it's
evil eye. You mean thoughtful, like the evil eye, giving somebody a bad thought.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
And then, of course, when you go black magic, then you become more professional. And make it bigger.
How would you
make a
define
bigger
that
bang.
for a neophyte, for a newbie in the audience? How would you define black magic or
Well,
sorcery?
Well, thought forms affect you. Thought forms have an effect.
Okay.
Let's say when you step into a room, you may feel suddenly depressed or happy. These are the thought forms, the vibe that's there. So they affect you. If you're sitting next to somebody, that hates your guts, you're going to start feeling pretty creepy after some time. Again, their thought forms, their negative thought forms, their emotion have an effect on you. So, beings use this as a weapon. And they use their own thought forms, and they, of course, try to amplify them through all kinds of methods. It's called correspondences, if you know anything about magic or Wicca or anything like that. And they also use dark entities. As you have angels and beings of love and light, there are also beings of destructions, and they feed on dark energies. That is their food. And it's part of creation. It's not that God made a mistake or that you don't have duality unless you have a
contrast.
Two contrasts. That's this realm here. If you don't like this, go higher. Heaven. Different game there.
Yeah, the earth is a game of contrast. Correct. For those that are new to that, yeah, I mean, it's kind of why you incarnate here at an advanced level. Yeah.
So okay, now we kind of, I'm stuck again.
Hold on, I got you. Yeah, that was a good one. This is what happens when you have the fool mentality. Hence why Wolfgang says smile like an idiot, because we become antennas. Sometimes the ideas come and go.
Well, that's kind of why, even as a healer, you need somebody that guides you. When you want to heal on yourself. So when I have, a client, I'm not completely immersed. I'm not completely channeling. I have to, keep track of time, make sure we don't forget something, we skip something. Correct. I mean, I write stuff down, so I have Correct. To be kind of linear. Correct. I'm kind of walking in both worlds. Whereas then the one that's under, he's just in the spirit world. That's eye closed, relaxed.
They're journeying, as you said earlier.
They're journeying. So one is driving, the other one is just perceiving. That's how you. Yeah. Now I'm doing kind of both things. I'm kind of lose track then.
Well, I remember. So we were talking about. So then, the concept of black magic thought forms and this notion of how they use the thought forms in an unnatural, or let's say in synthetic way, spells, correspondences, using the same way we can call on a team. They have, dark teams, let's say, subcontractors that do demolition, chaos magic, so to speak.
Mercs.
Yeah, mercenaries. Yeah, there you go. Wet ops. Oh, I like that. Wet ops, like hitmen, so to speak. Okay, so that's where we were on that train of thought in terms of. I wanted to touch on what do you know, or let's say, what do you phrase black magic to be? And then before that, we were talking about leadership and this notion of how things can get directed at you if you're in the spotlight, so to speak.
Right. So once you start having power, there's definitely, the more you get it, the more emphasis is put on to you, to get this corrupted.
Explain that. What do you mean? It almost, I hear it. It's almost like a game where they then want you on their side. Is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, or make you useless. Make you useless. Just destroy your mission.
To take players out of the game in a way.
Well, I mean, if you have like an alcohol addiction, they make you, drunk driving, have a car accident, you're done, Or I've seen a lot of gurus, falling down through sex. I mean, I've seen one guru had 4,000 followers just worshiping. Next thing, I hear, well, lost everything, was married to a fat woman with 4 kids. I mean, something, didn't
Oh,
go
it's like
right
a
there.
Icarus effect. They crash, so to speak, is what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, well, that woman did obviously some magic, to
Well,
get
it's
this kind
interesting
of
because
attraction,
you
and it just destroyed the whole thing. She probably got support from the dark side, to corrupt that operation.
what I'm hearing from you is it's interesting because all of the teachers I've had, it makes sense what you're saying more so now in hindsight. I can connect more dots listening to you because I was told, and this is kind of the theme was if you have a hook in you, then let's say the dark side of the game can actually hook you. So the vices, it's interesting, right? These lower 9 gates, as I call them, these vices are the entry point. So if you don't have the vices, you're transparent, nothing can stick. Right. I mean, you don't have chinks in your armor. There's no penetration. There's no way to, get you addicted, to lure you with lust, so to speak, things like that. Would you agree, generally speaking, with the phraseology, or how does that land for you?
Yeah, that's the idea, and of course, asceticism, or renunciation is not necessarily the answer. It's of course a question of balance. you know, I mean, yeah, you can consider sugar a vice, but better is to replace it, with something higher.
I guess that's what I'm learning more and more, even
Mhm.
listening to you, is
Mhm.
this notion of, as you become a leader, you look at the intention and then, and it seems like then you will have to, the responsibility is also to purify yourself so that you don't have all of these things impacting you, draining you, weighing you down, or haunting you, so to
Yeah,
speak, which we're
yeah,
going to transition into in a way with the ghost and understanding.
well, as a leader, if you start leading from ego, you're going to make ego-based decisions, and that's not good. You want to get rid of your enemies, instead of placing them in positions where they're going to be happy and useful. I mean, you don't see the proper reality, So if you want to, take the responsibility, you have to be connected to some kind of knowledge. You don't want to just gamble around here. Maybe you start out with good intention, and like with the genie, you get your 3 wishes, and it goes sideways in a way you never wanted to. So as this way, as a leader, you have to be in connection, with divine guidance, in my opinions. So the old kings, they always had their brahmanas or soothsayers, and saints and warlocks around them, to not only defend them, but also, to give, higher guidance.
It's that inner
Mhm.
alignment, the alignment with the soul, so to speak.
Well, no,
That's
well, that's
strange.
kind of more also looking outside, but
Mm.
at least, to some sources, I mean, sometimes they would line up with an overshadowing deity like Athena for Athens.
Mm.
you know, And so there's different gods, that were overshadowing, different cities at those times. This is my culture, this is my experiment. No, this is my experiment to these different cities. They would get, I mean, in this whole story with Troy, this is what happened. They were
The battle of
chanting,
the demigods in a way.
yeah, well, at least the humans were chanting those gods, and the gods were overlaying. I mean, this is reality. This is absolutely reality, this kind of things.
Well, it's a higher dimensional understanding of this plane, what's playing out below what is upstairs, let's say, right? These demigods, these higher dimensional beings that are not physical are then, playing out archetypally in the collective of the humans, let's say. Is that more or less a good
Yeah,
interpretation of it?
yeah, plus you're probably also entangled with these kind of beings. Imagine you're an eternal being, you have been around, for thousands of years. The
multidimensional
we had
nature.
relationship. Yeah. I mean, nowadays we have 8 billion people on the planet, but the number was a lot smaller.
So what I was saying is this notion of, so here you are talking about otherworldly beings, and we haven't touched upon the main topic today, this notion of ghosts and how these energies can hold us back as leaders, which we're starting to unpack. It sounds like from what you do, it's this notion of simplism and keeping it organic. You don't mess around with the source. You literally say absolute. I think what the verbiage used is absolute God or absolute source. So can you real quick, can we unpack this notion of lowercase gods and how these things are misunderstood? And then there's like an absolute, let's say, multiversal intelligence, because I think that's important for some of the audience, whether they're advanced or newbies. They may not understand any of this, or some of them may want refinement. And real quick, the analogy that came to mind for me was when I learned last year, there's the Devi prayer, which is about the divine mother in the Vedic. And then there's like the Lalitha, which is another mother. And so then I was starting to think, well, wait, which is the mother? Or is it a higher version or dimensional essence of the mother, like a copy of the copy? So that's kind of wanted to plant that seed.
Yeah. So, and just last week, this week, I put out a video on false gods and false twin flames, where I get into detail, and it's channeled, through one of my clients. It's exactly, we had a good session, and I just thought we got to share this, and he's anonymous, but, that's where we get delve into this. So the absolute source, why do I use this term? So there are, there's a lot of fighting, and who is God, I mean, between the different Abrahamic religions even, one call it Jehovah, the other one Allah, and
there's the human versions of it, yeah.
Well, so, and, and there are people that are saying, these are not absolute source. These are Anunnaki.
Like false imposters along the way.
Well, yeah, these are Enki, Enlil, from this kind of line, Anu, this kind of line, these are like local warlords, so to say, in other terms. And I know, I mean, there are many, devout Muslims that think, they are worshipping, the absolute source.
They're worshipping a black box.
And I don't want to say anything about
it's okay. I was raised Muslim, so I'll speak for it's I'm one of the club, so I can,
find out why you go counterclockwise also.
Isn't it? It's also, it reverses the polarity, right? So you're actually down cycling.
Research it yourself. Yes. I don't want to make any judgments.
Okay. You didn't want me to say that. You were doing rhetorical. You're doing a lawyer question, the Socratic method.
So, so, so there is deception there from dark side, and so I sidestep this by just demanding, absolute
straight to
source.
The absolute, the one,
absolute
the origin,
source,
the original copy, not the copies of the copies of the copies.
Well, yeah, as high as we can go, but not onto that Anunnaki level. That's definitely not there, and also with other beings. Sometimes, if I want to be conservative and there's a lot of funky stuff going on, just call it on the own Christ high self. Of course, you have to be on a certain vibrational level, to make that happen. But that's also very, very safe. Of course, I mean, my working relationship with those beings, they have been like for a long time now. So they have a good track record.
Like a rapport, almost like a rapport.
Yeah. I mean, that works, I mean, it's like a carpenter, that shows up at work, his stuff doesn't fall apart, after 10 years,
those are my reliable subcontractors. I'm going to call on archangels more regularly.
Well, yeah, you see, how it works out for you.
Real quick on this notion of false deities, let's say, for instance, I'm going to ask it rhetorically. I'll Wolfgang it this way. Is it possible that light, that they say the light, the white light, God, is it possible that light can be not God light?
Oh, yeah.
Can you elaborate?
Well, I mean,
What other
this is
sources could give us that kind of light that would make a human think, oh, this is God?
so
Yeah, talk to me, Goose.
all right. I mean, through the technology, we have computer technology now. Computer technology taught us a lot about consciousness, RAM, and so on. Now we also know virtual reality. It's still funky, and if you listen to, some of those SSP people, they're saying, they have been subjected to virtuality where you couldn't tell the difference. And that's like, even for us, maybe 10 years ahead, maybe 5 years ahead. I mean, nowadays you get some stuff that's like pretty close. And so it's just a question of time. So, but imagine for the Greys, for the Draco, for the Anunnaki, this is like Stone Age technology.
So you're saying there's non-human, higher advanced technologies you're alluding to. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so they have, created virtual reality spaces, and where they can bring souls, they think they're going into their heaven according to their belief system, and those saints are there and everything. And they don't know better, and they go to those, and they're like in a loop there, and their energy is being harvested on the astral plane. It's not physically their body, it's the soul part of the soul energy is getting siphoned off. And it's kind of like Matrix style, but Matrix is shown in 3D physical reality, but
Correct.
It's on the astral plane.
Other realms.
Different physicality there.
So hold on, let's slow down. So what you're describing energetically. So let me see if I'm following, for the audience's sake, is more or less. So
it's
almost
movies.
Like, what's that?
This is not fun movies.
Honestly, man, I will tell you, I considered myself masterful, and I learned what you're talking about, false ascension grids, and for the neophytes, let's say, as well as some of the advanced people, because of where we're taking the audience as a whole. So what you're describing is almost like a simulation room, right? It's like they create a room, and then you're thinking, oh, I've transcended, I've ascended to heaven, and it's really almost like a siphoning system. It's really these souls are not aware at a higher dimensional level that they're actually stuck in a synthetic loop, let's call it.
Yeah.
Is that accurate so far? I'm tracking. Okay.
Yeah, false heaven. And so, of course, so what's the difference? So when you really have a lot of love, they cannot fake that. They cannot fake the love.
So that's a good test of is this a pure source, or is this false deity or synthetic technology looping me?
Is this love? Is this just light and glitz, or do you feel love in your heart, uplifted, smiling? Is it divine? They cannot fake divine very well. So even they try so many times with fakes, even entities. When we call with a new one, we call on the high self, and they're coming in, and and we send some, and there's like, I don't know,
something's off.
It doesn't feel like, it's like
so is that like camouflage almost? Is that the analogy, that they can come in and it feels like it's really a part of your higher self? It's not. Is that what you're saying?
Let's say, homeless person walks into like a high-end hotel.
Okay.
There are probably some signs that, no, you cannot afford this.
So it's almost like they don't belong. That's not, you can tell this is not their higher self.
I can tell by the vibe.
They don't fit in, so to speak. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't, it's like this weird feeling.
So you're describing.
And then I have them, my clients, project source love onto them.
Oh, shit.
And that's like, if they're not of the light, that's like peeing on them, so they squirm, and it's like, but if they're of the light, they bring even more love back as an echo. And that's how you know.
So let's unpack this, because I mean, the level of discernment and subtle, almost granularity and attunement that you have as a practitioner, I would say most even advanced practitioners wouldn't. I mean, they'd have to strive for, right? It speaks to how long you've been doing this and cultivating this practice. Because what I'm hearing from you is, number one, you can tell the energy source from the essence of it. And number two, shine, like it's almost like a litmus test, right? To double check if you have any, if you have any, like, okay, I don't know, you may be like it. You then shine light or love, pure love essence, and then it's almost like the Wicked Witch is what I'm seeing in my head. I'm melting. No. Okay, interesting. So here you go, audience. You got the man himself, this master, telling you some really juicy nuggets already. Okay, so we're touching on ghosts, and well, we haven't gone to ghosts fully. We've touched on leadership, the intentionality, what can happen if you the Chinese proverb I've said a couple of times, you stick out, a nail that sticks out gets hammered first. Let's touch on something before we get into the meat and potatoes and kind of this home stretch of ghosts and haunting and how to deal with that. And then let's say an exercise to play around with. You mentioned this when we first talked, mass mind and like collective traumas and this interplay. Can we unpack that a little bit? Because I feel like taking a step back, we've talked about individual ghosts, and then I really wanted to touch upon quickly, how does this interplay, the entanglement of our microcosm and the macrocosm of all of humanity? Talk to me about mass mind, collective traumas, before we get into the ghosts and what we do about ghosts.
Mm-hmm. So as an anthropologist, when you look at the world, most anthropologists used to look at animals as bound by instinct.
Okay.
They come onto the world and, with a little learning from their parents, they're pretty much ready to, do the world. Of course, the more intelligent, the longer the learning curve. Elephants, take, more than 2 years, about 2 years to gestate, and then they have a long learning curve.
Okay.
The dumber they are, the ready out of the box. So that's instinct, And now with humans, they don't have that much instinct. There is definitely lots of instinct there. Look at Freud and, nursing and so on, and procreation. But then, a lot of it has to be learned by culture. What to eat, how to dress, how to mate, and all this is all cultural. So instinct with humans has been replaced by culture. So then that's mass mind.
Cult, sure. Cult, sure. Keep going. Mass mind.
So, but you have like localized mass minds. I mean, well, you have like your own thing, and then maybe you have your family unit. They have maybe a tradition of tough love or whatever. That's a group consciousness that's carried over from one generation to another till somebody changes it. Well, then maybe even you're part of a tribe. And maybe they fancy themselves, or a guild, as merchant, we're the slickest of them all, or tough warriors, or gangsters, they're always going to get you. So, I mean, they have like also, a certain mass mind.
So it's almost like sub layers of these cultural programs as the way you're unpacking it. I mean, there could be a lot of things we're hooked into from what you're already unpacking.
And so then, you have the country stuff, let's look at Ireland and England. I have a lot of clients from Ireland, and oh my God, the magic, the sacrifices, the hate, that is from both sides, the curses, I mean, it's just incredible, and it going through history, so dark forces and light forces just battling each other. Old Atlantean stronghold, Ireland, the Dracos, coming through Britain, through England, trying to wipe them out. So this is...
You're talking about intergenerational conflicts, essentially. Palestine, Israel type of stuff.
That is,
Ireland, England.
This again, two large, different math minds, battling each other out. And of course, they're controlled, by overshadowing deities, gods, goddesses, Draco, Anunnaki, and so they're using humanity again as proxy.
Would you call that program? So then how would you define... So the mass mind, the way I see it, as you just described it, what pops into my head as far as visual is it's almost like a little like box, let's say, right? It's like a little program, and then we're all hooking to it, and then there could be layers of all these cultures and
see them as clouds.
Clouds, okay, clouds.
Clouds they can overlay,
Okay.
I mean, let's say if you were living along the Silk Road, you got exposed to a lot of different cultures. So the Jews,
a lot of clouds overlaid. Okay, interesting. I like the way you did that.
The Jewish, they were very highly educated, and they had access, to a lot of teachings, from the Orient, from India, from Egypt, from the Greek from the Romans, so they were right on the trade routes, through the coast. So, yeah, you got to look at information flow like that. But
So then,
this is like our group mind, and then we have a mind of humanity as such, just humanity as such, forget all about the races, forget about Africa, yellow, and blue. I mean, they also have their group mind, like, I mean, one of the saying is like the Asians, there are a lot of people under one rule, one on top, and then Genghis Khan, Chinese nowadays, Mao, one on top, and lots of ant people, so to say.
So what you have to disconnect from these clouds or these? How do you go about it, or how would you recommend? Because I actually, as a practitioner, don't know how I've done that. I know I've done it, so it's interesting. I'm curious what your method would be, or the precision and how you would do it.
Well, all right. Well, I mean, what are you looking at yourself? Do you see yourself as a Chinese or as Iranian? Or do I look myself as a German? I mean, yeah, I mean, I have some advantages of being a German, but defining myself as a German is quite a limitation. Even as a human, I don't consider myself necessarily essential human. I'm here on a mission. Every time I come down from really high consciousness, like ayahuasca or something like this, I'm like, oh God, back to advanced monkey bodies again. It's like, here you go, grind. So
you've self-defined, as opposed to, it sounds like, to use psychology speak, as opposed to developing an identity, which I always see as an attachment to a thing. You self-defined. You're almost like, it's like you unhooked, for lack of a better description, from these group mind cultures.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you want to step outside the box. I mean, when you just look inside the box, you're limited. And I've seen, I mean, through my work, I see humanity and reality through so many different lenses. I mean, once you go above, let's say, biology, consciousness is very, very different, very neutral, no survival, and all this. And especially the celestial realms. The amount of love and the vibes there, it's just beautiful. And the more you understand, and can connect, I mean, once you connect with love in this Milky Way galaxy, that's a beautiful thing. Or just with whales, so yeah, you realize you're just an awareness that can move around, more or less, and I mean, right now I inhabit this body, but in dream time, cruising somewhere else, and even doing meditations, I can travel, and we travel in time, we go back, change things,
Quantum
rectify
looping.
things, apologize, and bring blessings.
I love that. And I'm an awareness that moves around, bro.
That's a new one that just came through. Yeah, I never
that was
used
a mic
that
drop.
line.
We should have ended it right there. All right, everybody, see you later. We're mic dropping on that one. Wow, I love that. Okay, so let's get to this like home stretch of this notion of, okay, ghosts, right? We've touched on it in terms of broaching it with this client that was a queen. And you've started to unpack it to refresh and actually give it in a more cogent way. What is the impact, the energetics of the ghost? Because you did say, Haas, I feel inspired to talk about this. And I said, wow, that really, I personally have felt haunted as a leader. I'm learning, ghosts. Wow, that's a thing. And you said, Haas, this is a thing that's been ignored. We're cleaning up on aisle everything else, and we haven't cleaned up on aisle ghost as a collective. So talk to me about that. What are the energetics? Let's riff on that. Haunting and ghosts as a leader.
So, I mean, we all know that, on those battlefields, there are no good energies, there are haunted houses, etc. Yeah? And in a lot of my work, people have properties, and, they're dragging their butt, and their dark portals there, and then we look. Well, there was war, there was murder, somebody died of cancer, there were dark sacrifices, all kinds of things happen, dark. And so then these beings, they're stuck, and they have to feed off, humans or trees or something, and they bleed their misery still. It's on the astral plane. Time is different. They don't decay like a tree, decays when it's dead. And then, of course, there are also these energies there, basically depressed or dark energies, and and that affects everybody. They get depressed, they get suicidal, they get sick. People, their dark chi, their good chi gets sucked away, and and they get manipulated by darker beings. So and of course, these are many times humans that are good humans, that got stuck for some reason. Murder, trauma, accident, for some reason they're still there and they suffer. And to just bring in them, and have angels and other beings, to bring them into higher consciousness and into the heavens is a good service to them. It's just kindness. Plus, you get rid of a lot of, like stray people that affect you. I mean, if you have another family on on the subtle plane, living in your house and judging you, that's, can be quite painful.
Mm.
Um,
Could it be possible that it's a past version of you could be your own ghost?
oh, yeah. I mean, that's much of my work is just liberating old ghosts. I mean, what do you think? How many times have you been lynched? How many times have you been backstabbed and assassinated, poisoned, betrayed?
Especially if you're a leader, which we've touched upon. Yeah.
Yeah, but even you have no power, you get pimped out, you get wasted for nothing, you go over the wall first, as a soldier, I mean, there's trauma and drama on every level.
So it hangs around, essentially. It goes back to that notion of these energies don't go anywhere, and you got to do something with them.
Yes.
So is the energetics like they're literally, because you said they need food, so is it almost like a parasitic effect then too, as a technical?
Yeah. Even a well-meaning grandmother, she likes to guide and protect you. First of all, she's old-fashioned, because she's still in that human consciousness. Second, she needs life force, just like an old lady that's just sick and sitting next to you and you're getting exhausted, so they need life force, and you're a battery for them, so the more ghost you have, the less life force you have.
So in your work, like, is similar to the other stuff, generally speaking? Is it that they have to consciously then, like, almost, is it like a honopono, like they have to forgive? Or generally speaking, what are we dealing with in terms of the mechanics?
Yeah, I use that a lot, but it really depends what the issue is.
Okay.
Sometimes black magic trap, sometimes revenge, sometimes love attachment, so sometimes wants to play protector. Let's say if somebody wants to play the protector, we thank them, and then we call on the other heavenly protectors in, and show yourself to them, and show also how you much better can protect from the heavens. So I talk them into it, and they can always come back. We give them permission to come back, and they're always glad, from Sissy.
It's almost like you're doing rehabilitation therapy to pull to the ghost.
A lot faster,
in a way.
a lot faster. And the astral time is different, so you just ask for
it's
it.
Time compression.
Like 5 seconds, it's done,
Yeah. So it's interesting because it sounds like, in a way, you said something. Well, let me, one quick thing. So you said that, I believe, if I heard you correctly, let me ask you and see if this lands, because you said that if that person is taking energy because they feel they're being the protector, right? Because that ghost is trapped in that consciousness.
They have to. They need,
they need the food.
They need the food. There's a subtle body without a human body. Your human body is a battery. I mean, every muscle is like a little battery.
The bioelectromagnetics, yeah.
Yeah, the fascia is the insulator. The muscle itself is the salt water.
So it sounds like, in a way, you're also replacing, right? Because a lot of times I've had to learn this, and I see it all over the place. Like, people will clear and then they don't fill, right? Because the old energy can easily come back. It sounds like that's what you're doing in part 2, or no? Did I misinterpret that?
Well, so yeah, first of all, all the baggage and stuff gets cleared, and this goes pretty fast, and then at the end of my sessions, I always do a soul retrieval.
Elaborate for everybody's sake. What do you mean by soul retrieval?
All right. So let's say, you have been pimped out in one lifetime.
Okay. Wolfgang's terminology, pimped out as in sold yourself or you've been marketed somehow.
Yes. Prostitution. And there's always some drama behind it. People not necessarily volunteer for that. And so there is this higher goddess aspect in you, and maybe you had a female incarnation that's like, oh, I'm not putting up with that. I'm out of here. And then a more cruder form that's all right, and do it, of your soul is there. So the higher, more aristocratic aspect is out. And so this has to be, once this aspect, this core or whatever has been liberated, this higher aspect can be asked in. Of course, it has to be purified. The body has to be purified of those emotions. Otherwise, no, I'm not going to go into this body. You're suicidal. You have depression up to here. I'm a goddess. No. Like you wouldn't go into somebody's underwear that has been worn for a month. Same thing. And so, but the more you purify, the more aspects of you, of your soul, which is like divine and quite unlimited, can manifest through can come into you. So the more you do this, the more the power of the more presence of your soul can come into you, so then later on you can walk with your high self, male, female, if necessary, and, maybe only for a short time as a shaman, it's the same, all the time. If you're straight.
So in a weird way, it's like most of us then is that relates to disassociation and being out of your body and not really being here, like a zombie almost state that many refer to. If you have severe soul disassociation, fragmentation, would you, how does that land for you? That it's almost like, is that what you feel? Let me put this coach
dissociation is kind of more when your subtle body is out of your physical body.
Okay. So what do you, so what's the distinction between the subtle body leaving and the soul having to be retrieved? How would you distinguish those as a practitioner?
So see yourself as a tree.
Okay.
An upside down tree.
Okay.
So you're a leaf on that tree.
Okay.
And there's there is this branch, so that's you in your past incarnations. And then this branch attaches to a larger branch. This is, a more powerful aspect of your soul.
Okay.
Like an Anunnaki or, some kind of a good bloodline.
Okay. Okay.
And that's a much wider, powerful consciousness, 5, 6 dimensional, And then there is another aspect that's more like archangel-like,
Okay.
even higher than that, a bigger branch, And if you would go all the way, up, you get to the trunk, and that trunk would be source, kind of, and from source, of course, spreads out into all these different sub-personalities, sub-realities, and whatever, into ignorance, And the higher back to the trunk you go, yeah, I'm part of source more and more, you're part of the whole again.
The higher
so
essence.
You can travel up and down that tree backwards and forwards, at least in the shamanic journey or in a good past life regression and a good, soul retrieval, whatever you want to call that.
So it's bringing in more of, let's say, the higher trunk in, let's say, as opposed to the lower branches. So a more pure or higher dimensional aspect coming back, as opposed to these distorted, let's say, unnatural or impacted aspects that then come in that are diseased or desensitized or a ghost or things of that nature.
Yeah, and basically I show you how to feed properly as a human energy being, So you need energy from the earth goddess.
Okay.
They need that energy for your cells, for your physical body, but you need also a component, from the higher astral plane, from the finer, and that mix, is like an angel in a monkey body, you need both those components. And so when you have only the angelic force, you're going to be a space case, that has a hard time paying rent and keeping a job, And if you only have earth energy, you may have a secretary and 5 cars, and, big apartment, but you don't appreciate the finer spiritual
No heart and
values of life.
soul in your leadership.
Yeah, So, you want to walk in both worlds, like a tree. If it doesn't have proper roots, it's going to get knocked over if it has a big crown. And so
And it
you want
also
to
has
have
to
a
reach
balance.
up to get pure sunlight. So it's a dual effect, as is up, so is below.
Yeah. And you need that solid earth energy, to run your brain and your energy system on a high. I mean, if you want to run on high chi, you better learn this. It's life force. It's life force. You have more life force. You have stronger orgasms. You have, everything is better in life, more intense and better.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, that's kind of how I keep saying it to people is we have these gateways, you have a grid above, grid below, and we're unplugged from the actual power grids and these power energy systems that are natural, that have existed since time immemorial, that are multiversal, multidimensional, and that, yeah, I loved how you put it because you're not connected. The battery starts to wane and the wick really deteriorates in an unnatural way, which is probably why, let's say gurus, masters, whatever you want to call, somebody of your stature. Yeah. You, in a way, you look young, my father at 70 looked way more deteriorated because he's not connected to these life forces, to these natural grids. He hasn't cleared out these interferences that we're touching upon today. So I love how you put that in, how you brought that in. Where do you want to take us in terms of, what do you feel in terms of a demo? Like we've done a lot of tips and tools through here.
Let's do this.
You want to maybe drop some Wolfgang fire on them?
Well, this is something I do with all of my clients. And so this is about testing your heart chakra, yours and the people's heart chakra.
Okay. So demo time.
Yeah. So I show this to all of my clients, in the first session. First of all, just close your eyes and smile. And later on, you will understand why to smile. And just focus on pulling in the love from the earth goddess, through your feet and root chakra into your heart, as if you're having straws, or pipes. Just imagine pulling earth love up, and then send your love with a smile through the breath down. Go back and forth. Like an ocean. Now put your tongue to the palate. Imagine you're pulling in the love from Milky Way galaxy from about 2 meters above your head into your heart, and send that love up. And she's the mother of millions of solar systems. Super smart. And we asked our angels and spirit guides of love and light to clear any resistances between us, Mother Earth, and the Mother Milky Way galaxy. So there's love information flowing. Any spells, curses, blocks, entities, and parasites, final removal, clear. Also any dark curses, spells, thorn of crowns, reverse crowns, any dark technologies. Please clear now. Divine source. Amen. Amen. Keep on plugging away. And it takes about 5 seconds and it's starting to kick in now. You probably feel this now. Get more space around the head. Good. Now it's really coming in. Deep breathing. Good. Now it's flowing. And now start pulling the love from both sides, both ends into your heart, from the heavens and the earth. And just fill your heart with more and more of this divine love. The more you smile, the sweeter you smile. The sweeter the love, the deeper you breathe, the stronger the love. Mhm. And now just keep smiling, but be rather passive. I'm going to project, love from heaven and earth unto you, unto you, Has, and unto our viewers too. So just smile like an idiot and see what you feel. Now, when I snap my fingers, start frowning. This means mouth corners come down, and observe what happens to my love. Start frowning now.
Hmm.
And smile again. And frown again. And smile. So probably for many of you, when you were frowning, you did not receive any love. You can open your eyes now. So when you smile, you tune into the higher mind. Your mind becomes like a butterfly. Go for the nectar, beauty, flowers. The more you frown, the more your mind becomes like a fly, garbage, poop, and so on. Same reality. So when you smile and send love, same vibration, you get it. When you frown and I send love,
Locked.
you're not gonna get it.
Discordant.
When you frown and I yell at you, oh yeah, that just you get some blisters from that. It's gonna go right in. But when you laugh and smile, it's not gonna get into you. So really important, when you deal with higher beings, you better smile. You probably smile for your boss, and who is your boss? Compared to Mother Earth, compared to Milky Way galaxy, compared to Source and any divine being, they're nothing compared to those. And you don't want to bounce on bosses here, but see the proportion.
I love the simplicity because, again, I mean, so much of the world nowadays is chasing complexity and, breath work, and you got to do all this fancy stuff. I'll call it fancy. And right there, I mean, all you did, I call it all you did. There's a lot in that all you did. It's grid above, breathe it in, grid below, breathe it in, mix it, keep your heart open, smile. And right there, I mean, I felt a tremendous amount of release and relief. And it's like you said, I say we get high on our own vibes. We can get high on our own vibrations.
Well, this is America. In America, you simplify and mass produce. So I applied this. I'm German,
The MVP, minimum viable product. Scale it, baby. Scale it.
The Germans, in me, perfected, the American aspect, mass produce, simplified. Let's get this going here. Yeah.
You took Henry Ford's assembly line and you put it up into the Ascension realms. So you're creating Ascension assembly.
You get a contact high from my videos. I mean, what a technology. It's awesome. If you have the vibe, do it, and everybody else can get it. And that's awesome. I mean, take advantage. It's like a prayer mill. It's like a Tibetan prayer mill. It works. It works. Take advantage of it.
So Wolfgang,
high vibration. Yeah.
To wrap up, for anybody in the audience that's sitting, listening, that hasn't started, let's call it the more advanced soul healing inner work, soul searching inner work, which is basically what we've covered this episode. What would you say, outside of what you've already covered, what feels inspired to say, what would be the starting point for them? If they had to pick and choose all of this, I know we can do it all at once, or some of the sessions are potent. Where would you say, if they're a complete beginner or they're new to any of this, what's a starting point that you would recommend for them?
Well, I would say, go to my channel, just type in Tools for Ascension by Wolfgang.
And it'll be below too, in the comments or in the description section of the video too, yeah?
Yeah, we're also going to have a link to my whole list. So you have about, 250, 300 videos out now. And just follow your heart. of what inspires you. I mean, important is grounding, love, and sky connection. Start there. And just, follow along, smile, the more you breathe, the better the results. And take it from there. If you have, results from this, if you start tingling and smiling and, you feel lighter, you're on the path. There are people that are waking up, fast. They are like a nurse supervisor, one day, and then, half a year later, they start clearing out ghosts from the hospital. They can see the energies. Of course, they need somebody, to explain stuff to them. I mean, the videos, they're free and they're helpful. And they give you a lot of people, guidance. And, even, if you haven't run all night long, it's very soothing and calming. Some people, that's the only thing that makes them fall asleep. So, it's helpful. And, you can always try a session with me. My prices are very, reasonable. And generally, wherever you are at, most of the time I can, if you have experiences with my guided meditation, I can up you, I can help you, get better. And once your heart has been opened, you probably have a different relationship with my videos too. You know what to expect, what the standard is. I mean, I'm training you, I feel your chakra, push more, and this and that, so what is, proper, and you're going to have, good results.
I love that. And thank you. I mean, not only for being here and playing and co-creating together, also for the service that you've been doing. I mean, like you referred to the tools you're putting out there, gifting it in service to humanity. And truly, you alluded to it throughout the episode and said it right now. People are waking up because this is a remarkable age of high potency and opportunities to unlock things that really is, let's say, the time we've all been waiting for in a way as a collective. So thank you, brother. It really has been fun to play. Hopefully not the last, let's say, the first and many more. And yeah, check out Wolfgang, his work, the comments, the description section will have all the details, links and things of that nature below. Don't go too far below. Stay in the higher planes. Only go into the description section. Any parting words, final words, inspired words that are coming through your form for the audience for now?
Well, give us a thumbs up, subscribe and give comments, share. Share your reactions. It's important. This is a community, of light workers. And I read, all the messages, and if it's intelligent questions, I answer them. And smile, and breathe. Breathe love into your heart. That's the most important. And be in the smiley side. Be into the higher mind. Most important, easiest. Put smiley pictures everywhere, and it actually kicks in your thymus gland. Thymus, thyroid. Your immune system kicks in when you smile. When you frown, it shuts off. You research it yourself.
Or as Wolfgang says, smile like an idiot. Like nobody's watching, carefree, and it'll work. It'll work, baby, if you work it.
Why like an idiot? Because there's no reason. It's just nice. Not trying to be smart, impress anybody. No, it's just it's nice. In front of God and the higher beings, you're just like bumbling idiots. Like you do look down as a human and at the mouse. And you just run circles intellectual. What does a mouse in our stock market paying rent and all this stuff? No idea. So to you, a mouse is like a bumbling idiot. To other beings, we are bumbling idiots. And so, just connect on the love connection and, and take it from there.
I love it. I call it sacred, not serious work. And it's the full mentality of the tarot of really empty mind, beginner's mind. And yeah, don't take ourselves too seriously. Ladies and gentlemen, Season 4 is underway of Vulnerable Power Show. This has been Wolfgang. This is Tools for Ascension, a man who has committed to a mission, to support the collective in getting rid of their ghosts and really accessing and unlocking the soul and leadership that they're here to bring forward, the heart, the love, truth, all of that. So Wolfgang, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Much love and blessings. Like he said, like, share, support the mission. It's a collective mission. We're all in this together. We're all rising together. And we'll see you again soon on the Volvo Power Show.